This one kind of caught my eye as I was running through studies. And it's the idea of the credibility of the Monday blues. And this kind of pulls from common wisdom that, once you're done with the weekend, you're not looking forward to coming back to work on Monday because you have a full week ahead of you and of job stress, of projects and stuff you have to do. And so you're feeling bluesy about it. So the questions that the researchers asked here are, what is the relationship between the time of the work week, whether it's early in the week or later in the week, and employee job satisfaction? And similarly, what's the relationship between this time and the perceived workplace instability? And the methods here were 139 full-time staff members at a large US university participated, and these staff members were non-teaching employees and worked a traditional work week, the typical 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, no working on weekends kind of work week. And the participants were asked to complete 2 surveys daily for 9 consecutive work days. The first survey was filled out at 5 p.m. each day once their work was finished, and measured employee job stressors, which include things like perceived organizational constraints and perceived incivility. And then 4 hours later, ideally to be completed before the employee went to bed at 9 p.m., a survey was sent out that measured job satisfaction. And so what they found from this is, so first, I think it's important to note kind of a basic theory behind 2 basic theories. One is this Monday blues perspective that we mentioned before, that employees are feeling moody to go back into work at the beginning of the work week. There's another theory though that suggests that employees feel more restored and rested and recharged by the end of the weekend, and that makes them more prepared to go to work on Monday. Therefore, this Monday blues perspective doesn't hold up. And so what this study was looking at was which holds ground here based on our findings. And what they found is the Monday blues perspective was more valid. In this case, they didn't find any sort of indication that this other rested and recharged perspective was valid, and they had some reasons behind that. But they essentially found employees experienced lower levels of job satisfaction at the start of the work week compared to the end, and perceived incivility was greater at the beginning of the week than it was at the end of the week. And the authors pointed out that one of the reasons why they found no results related to this rested and recharged theory was maybe looking at the difference between the idea of recovery versus the idea of mood. That even if someone feels recovered after the weekend doesn't necessarily indicate that they're in a positive mood to start the week. So they pull from they pull from research that looks at the use of resources and job stressors at the workplace for employees, meaning that kind of each employee starts the work week with a certain number of internal resources, like a capability to take on different stressors throughout the week, and that the weekend helps them recover to be prepared for those stressors. But there's still job stressors, so they may still lead to a negative mood. And so speaking of these job stressors, kind of another interesting finding here was that when employees encounter a job stressor on Friday, it's possible that they are more capable of handling or ignoring the stressor because they know they're going to have this recovery break that is the weekend. And this is the opposite for employees' experiences on Mondays, where they may perceive this job stressor to be more severe because they have to deal with it for a longer period of the work week. Seems like kind of common sense, but it's kind of interesting to think of it in these terms, I think. And so a key takeaway is that this study suggests employees are less satisfied with their jobs and report more perceived incivility at work on Mondays versus Fridays. And the authors kind of suggested that a couple initiatives that organizations can undertake, one being that scheduling employee wellness initiatives earlier in the week may be more effective than later in the week. Similarly, major organizational changes may be better announced towards the end of the week, as employees will be better equipped to handle those job stressors or ignore them as the weekend is upcoming and they can just relax. So kind of a fun, interesting study on the Monday blues.
I really like this one. I thought this was really fascinating. And I think it ties into the resiliency conversation we were having last week. I guess people are more resilient on Fridays than on Mondays.
That's very true.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought up resiliency, because to me this highlights the like internal work within the individuals that, I mean, most individuals, but specifically those that went through the study, right, to have these results, that there's like a reframing, or even just there's something that could be done, and that's why kind of this takeaway of employee wellness initiatives, like wellness is a broad term, right, that can incorporate a lot of different things, but that's kind of like what as I'm hearing you talk about this, Noah, I was just thinking, well, there's some need to kind of build the wellness or the resiliency in individuals so that they're not looking at it in that way. I mean, it's totally a mind frame. That's my thoughts on this. And I think but like a really strong takeaway that a lot of leaders out there should hear is this: major organizational changes being better announced towards the end of the week. Like that's something very tangible that I think could play a huge role on employee satisfaction and just comfort in their own in their job, their well-being, right?
Mhm.
I mean, if we're looking at work, I've actually heard this Monday blues also described as the Sunday scaries, where it's like on Sunday night you're like, oh, I just don't want to go to work the next day, and a lot, like I think it's very common, because I've heard friends call it the Sunday scaries, and it just goes to show that, like, there is more of a need to bring wellness into the workplace so that people don't look at work as something so like negative, like, oh, I don't want to do it. We need to enhance our satisfaction with our work in order to alleviate this, right?
Absolutely. And I like the idea of what you said about announcements, because I think so many companies and leaders, always think like early in the week, like we'll get everyone's attention because we're just coming back. But yeah, maybe that's a great point to start pushing things back a little bit, because you may have better engagement and better reception on towards the end of the week. I like that point a lot. But what you said too about overall well-being and making sure that jobs are being, it's an enjoyable part of your life, I think is an important thing. So, companies doing what they can to make it a place that people want to be. I think that's another great point. I mean, I really feel like you hit the nail on the head, Sarah, on like what companies can like realistically do to get people on a good page in this sense.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just reminding me a lot of our current clients and sort of some of the takeaways that they've gotten from our services, where it's like there's still support needed, and having a third party is beneficial, absolutely, but I mean, of course, you have to take cost into consideration, right? To do long-term ongoing type of support for certain individuals in the workplace. And a lot of companies today have EAP benefits, right? Employee assistance programs or whatnot, that offer more wellness and those types of, not necessarily like conflict management support, but just on a more personal level of wellness. They offer that, and so I think it's important for companies and organizations, if they don't have those, to create something like that, where like these wellness initiatives, as this article kind of points to.
Yeah. Well, and those wellness initiatives help. I mean, you kind of mentioned this already, but they're going to lead to more motivation and more productivity in the long run for employees. So if people are like, why try to tackle this Monday blues thing? It's just kind of a part of everyday work week. Like, we all experience it. We just have to get through it. Well, like, if you can find ways to improve your job satisfaction, improve your experience at the workplace, you're gonna find you're gonna have more motivated employees. And the organization is going to benefit a lot more from that, from their productivity and their motivation and passion to get their jobs done and do them well.
100%. How much do you think this is just changing? Like, it's a generational change too, with just how younger generations view their work, right? Like I think it's changing a lot, and it's not that it's good or bad or right or wrong, right? But this idea, I think of this as like with family members and like my parents and stuff like that, that were, are at retirement age, and they think of like work as just, 9 to 5, in and out, clock in, clock out. And that was the norm. Whereas now people are talking about work as like, you have to love what you do sort of thing. And like, we do put a lot more, younger generations are putting a lot more kind of pressure on the workplace, right? To have more satisfaction and not just look at it as a paycheck.
I think it goes hand in hand with kind of your longevity too, at certain places where older generations, consider one job kind of be their main thing for their whole life. Whereas, now people transition every few years. I think that speaks to that too. It's kind of interesting to look, I think, at that relationship, but I think you're right. Yeah.